We are now connected with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Teuku Rezasyah and Pajajaran University's International Relations expert Teuku Rezasyah.
Hello, Pak Reza. Pak
Hello,
Faisal.
good day. Regards from Bandung.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good day to you both.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with some questions here. I'm going to first ask Pak Faisal. As we know, Ukraine is just hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away, thousands of kilometers away from Indonesia. But then, of course, there are Indonesian citizens there. Can you please tell us more about the process of evacuating Indonesians from Ukraine? And is it more difficult to evacuate foreign nationals, to get them outside Ukraine compared to locals?
Well, thanks so much for the questions. If you look at the progress or the escalation of the conflict, it's so surprisingly that it took us quite at a surprise at the turn of the event. But we quite pleased that we have developed a plan of action some weeks ago on how to extract our national from Ukraine. And we tasked our ambassador in Kiev to develop a situation report and consult us in Jakarta on daily basis. So we can be assured that at certain point we will have to extract our national from Ukraine. And for the past 2 days, we were able to evacuate 99 of our nationals and 5 foreign nationals who are part of the groups, some of, as we know, mixed marriage with the locals. And therefore, we are quite successful in a way that we move them from the conflict zones to a more secure places away from Ukraine. We move them to Poland and to Romania. So at the moment, we still have 4 Indonesian in the city called Kharkiv and 9 Indonesia in the city of Cherniv in the southern part of Ukraine. We are not being able to extract them from the conflicting zone because we were informed that there are heavy exchange, so we need to wait for better circumstances to evacuate them from those 2 cities.
All right. Thank you so much, Pak Faisal. Now, I want to go to Pak Reza, your brother. So, since this war has been going on for at least 6 days, Russia began its attack last week, and I don't know, it's been going for so long, and the negotiation apparently didn't really come out as what people probably expected. And we don't know what made Putin stop this military operation. And at the same time, if he stops, it means that he will gain something. And what about Ukraine? So what do you think about this invasion, not the military operation that is happening in Ukraine? What does Russia want? And how long do you think it will last?
Well, what is happening at the moment is confusing media relations from both sides. It is very difficult for us scholars to understand the issue from the exactly in the middle ground. There are Russian kind of what we call conveying information. There is also the NATO side of conveying information. We are stuck in the middle. It is very difficult for us to fully understand them. But if I see this from the Russian side, well, Russia is always considering itself as the what we call it, as having a regional leadership in the region. Russia call itself the new leader following the fall of the Soviet Union, and then in this case, all countries in this area they have to respect Russian regional leadership. And in this purpose, what Ukraine has been doing is considered an insult to Russian regional supremacy. For example, it was against Russian advice that Ukraine should never talk about NATO, and also there was no issue of NATO enlargement when the NATO officials talked with the Russian officials, because it is very dangerous for Russia. Because if Ukraine becomes part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member, so all rules and regulations inside NATO will be applied also to Ukraine. In this case, especially Article 5. So the threat faced by any one of the NATO member will be considered as a threat collectively by all NATO members, and they will respond in accordance to their constitutional processes. So in this case, the situation reminds me of the situation in 1962, 1963 in the American continent when the Soviet Union installed a missile in the island of Cuba. So in that case, the U.S. was aware that war could happen to the U.S. So same story with Russia at the moment. This what Russia did, it was a preemptive strike. So it is very difficult to say, is this an act of aggression, or this is an invasion, or is this an act of self-defense from the Russian side? There has been attack from the Russian side for about 5 days, yeah. And this is what a surprise for me. This some call it war, some call it dispute. This crisis lasts longer than expected. This is beyond my understanding. From my understanding,
what would stop Russia, sir? I mean, would it be like when NATO says, okay, Ukraine will not enter, and then probably Russia will choose a different president that will pro to him instead of pro to the Western Europe, or what is it? And will America or NATO countries accept that as well?
This is a very difficult front deal. We are dealing with 3 fronts at the same time. First, battleground in Europe. Secondly, discussion somewhere in Belarus. And thirdly, a development following the UN General Assembly. These 3 areas are influencing each other. And at the moment, people are focusing on what is happening in the battlefield and also in the discussion. In my opinion, the bottom line for Russia is Ukraine should get rid of any ideas leading to NATO membership. And then this is maybe yet to be discussed. In my opinion, they will talking about the neutralization of Ukraine. In this case, Ukraine is to become a buffer zone, not leaning to Russia, and also not leaning to North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I think this is something good. In this case, the two fronts, the Russian front and the NATO fronts, they try to make sure that not to permit Ukraine aligned to any side, and this is also good for non-aligned movement, because we will have a new member, and this is Ukraine. But this is at the end, it is up to the decisions made in Kiev or in Moscow. But if I see the qualities of Vladimir Putin, he believes what he's doing is right, and he believes that at the moment Ukraine is fractured, because more and more forces coming coming inside Ukraine, beginning to challenge the leadership of the current president. As we know, the qualities of the president is different than Putin. He's coming from the entertainment background, so it must be very difficult for a president coming from this background to make a strategic decision.
Yeah, and probably I'm going to Pak Faiza, according to Pak Reza, talking from the scholar point of view, and also it was actually the media has taken its part into stirring the pot in this crisis as well, and sending the messages to the international world. But how has Indonesia responded to Russia's actions in this? And one thing also that lots of people want to know is, where do we stand on the issue?
Well, thanks so much. Our position is very much crafted based on our position. If you look at the 24th of February, we did these 5-point statements, which really reflect our principal position on the importance of the international community to adhere to the principle of UN Charter, international law, and the sacrosanct of the national integrity of one nation. So any act that change the status quo or the status of a country is against international law. So we already issue our clear position on this matter based on the principal positions, and I think we address the issues very clearly. If we identified five principal position on Indonesia. We call for the country, for the parties engaged in this conflict to refrain from the use of violence and try to attempt to find a peaceful solution and dialogue. We see that currently there is ongoing talks among the parties, and certainly we do hope that there is a way to find at least cessation of hostilities. We also call on the UN to really take up the responsibility to maintain international peace and security. Well, countries like Russia has the veto power, yet we continue to urge the UN to fulfill its obligation and mandated under the Charter. So we'll see how this process taking us at the moment. We have the General Assembly also conduct their debate on how we can listen carefully to the position of each country's member of the UN on this particular issue. So this is the process that we are observing at the moment, and we can always say that all countries understand Indonesia positions, and we continue to stand on our position on this very issue.
All right. Seems like the discussion is very, very interesting, but we will have to have a break right now, and we'll continue discussion with the two brothers, the Teuku brothers, Teuku Rezasyah and Teuku Rezasyah, here in the 3-Hour News Show. We'll be back. So now we will continue our discussion with Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Teuku Rezasyah and Pajajaran University's international relations expert Teuku Rezasyah. This is still about the war in Ukraine. What is the impact? This is impacting economically, not only in the region, but also in Europe, in Southeast Asia as well, probably because Ukraine and Russia is holding at least 30% of the wheat that is, going around the globe. Now, let's continue the discussion. I think Yasha has a very interesting question. Go ahead,
right.
Yasha.
You know what? Let's talk about the how Western nations and international organizations have imposed sanctions on Russia. What we know now is that there's a swift ban for Russian banks, but not all. It's for selected banks only. So how will these sanctions affect the country, Russia, especially its economy? And well, the ban I think started several days ago. And how has it impacted Russia today, Reza?
Well, this is an interesting question, because for international relations theoreticians, they are witnessing how an ex-superpower will respond to this. And in the past, there are always sanctions. Russia experienced this kind of sanctions in the past: economic sanctions, technological sanctions, financial sanctions, HIPs. But Russia survived. Well, in this case, we need to acknowledge what are behind the Russian strengths. If we follow the history of modern Russia, they have been experiencing glasnost, perestroika, novoye mislenie, and at the moment they are being led by a very charismatic leader. So I believe the Russian can stand, but at the same time, we are also witnessing the counter sanctions done by the Russian side. In this case, energy sanctions. I think some of the European countries are beginning to feel the heat, especially Germany and France. They are beginning to experience this, and then this is the reasons why Germany they responded in a very cautious way, because they understand the longer this crisis lasts, the longer they will pay for the energies, because at the moment, to compensate Russian energy, they are buying from the US, and the cost is much higher. So in this case, this is a stalemate, and I do not know where this is going. because while some countries are also producing sanctions, some countries are also producing aid to Ukraine, but we have not witnessed what China is doing, because China could do more than just aid, trade, and so on. This is something we are witnessing, because if the prolongation of sanctions will make China closer to Russia, and this is we cannot imagine the combination of these two powers. A couple of weeks ago, we witnessed a secret discussion between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin in the middle of the Winter Olympic. We are yet to hear what are their decision. It is considered confidential. But I'm sure there are take and give. Take and give what China could do, what China not do, and what are the results to the prolongation of this conflict. But if we hear news from the Western side, the Russians are beginning to feel the pain. But if we refer to the Russian side, we will witness that they are strong. So this situation remind me of the way of the thinking of our brothers and sisters in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The more sanctions they have, the more pressures they have. The national ideology is becoming stronger. So Russia is proving this at this very moment.
The situation is extremely complicated, and this is very important because the countries that are putting into the frame are very, very powerful. We're talking about nuclear war if this prolongs. So let me go back to Pak Faiza. Indonesia, we're talking about Indonesia. Since our government has not issued an official statement about the war in Ukraine, do you see this as an implementation of the so-called free and active foreign policy, or politik non-blok, politik luar negeri bebas aktif?
Well, thanks so much for the question. As I said before, actually, we did issue a statement on the 24th of February, outlining the 5 position that we like to issue concerning this development. But put it aside, because countries already aware where our stand is on the issues. But you're referring to the issue of non-aligned movement. Non-aligned movement, as reflected in the Foreign Policy Act that we have, is very much putting us in an active position to conduct an active foreign policy and look at it from the perspective of our principal positions. The non-aligned movement is very much alive as a movement, because in the past we look at this as a middle way in coping with the tension between the West and the Eastern Bloc. But with the collapse of the communist bloc, a lot of questions raised whether the non-aligned movement remains relevant to coping with the challenge that we face at the moment. But as we know, moving the debate on these very issues of conflict in Ukraine to the General Assembly, we can see the country lining up. The General Assembly is the place where each country has their own voice. They're able to convey the position of their countries. And this is also the avenue for the countries belong to the non-aligned movement to really reflect on how they position themselves in the way of continuous competitions between the major powers who have seats in the Security Councils. But now at the General Assembly, each of the countries will have the capacity to voice their positions, and it will be interesting. But the next stage would be how to revitalize the non-aligned movement, as we see the more complex international relation at the moment, when the global politics in the past is a reflection of bipolar systems. Now it's the unipolar system where the US is the main great powers that we have. Other countries can be seconds, and where is the place for the non-aligned movement? I think this is the time for the countries belonging to the non-aligned movement to really reflect on themselves how they can contribute to this challenge of global conflicts and continue to find the movement as a relevant voice amidst all these competitions.
All right, thank you, Faiza. Now I have a question again for Pak Reza here. A number of countries have reportedly sent aid to Ukraine, but not military personnel. The EU has sent aid for weapons, and Ukraine is not even a European Union member. It is applying to become an emergency application. I'm sure Turkey is looking at this and like, hey, Turkey's not even a EU member, but Ukraine, they're applying for it. And what is the chance of them getting a membership in such as emergency notice? And how do you see this fold out in terms of the aid?
Well, when it comes to the aid, countries they are split. Not many of them have guts to send armaments, to send arsenals, to send missiles, to send anti-missiles, to send hardware. They are reluctant to see this because they are seeing the possibility of the future after this. At the moment, they are still thinking the two conflicting parties will reach a peaceful solution. But what kind of solution? This is still under debate. If we see for the Russian side, no more NATO membership, no more progress in the NATO application, and then maybe, in my opinion, Russian wants Ukraine to be neutralized or become an independent country. But seeing from the Ukraine side, they're still pursuing to become the NATO member, and I do not know how we could reach a balance in between, because this is so extreme, a non-alignment or non-alignment. For us, it is easy because we are far away. We have the luxury to say that we are not belong to East or the West. But for a country like Ukraine, they experience World War I. They experience World War II, and they also experience the Cold War and the post-Cold War. I think it is very difficult for them to decide, especially under this kind of very pressing moment. I think in this case there are rooms for diplomacy, like what my brother had said. There are rooms for diplomacy still open. For example, Indonesia, we can fully utilize our non-aligned network. We can fully utilize our Organization of International Organization of Islamic Cooperation. We have not fully utilized this. It is interesting to see, in the past, Indonesia worked in tandem with ASEAN. Indonesia worked within the framework of non-aligned movement. But in this case, in this very critical moment, it is time for Indonesia to utilize its state actors and also its non-state actors. For example, when it comes to the non-state actors, we are not aware on the qualities of our former president, Ibu Megawati. Ibu Megawati is more senior than Vladimir Putin, and Ibu Megawati had in the past good relations in her capacity as the daughter of Bung Karno. She visited Soviet Union, and she had a personal knowledge with regard to the ex-Soviet top leaders. This is something Putin is not doesn't have. So I think if we request the readiness of Ibu Megawati to help the Republic of Indonesia at this very moment to bridge conflicting parties, I think this could be a new kind of surprise for the world.
This is interesting.
Now, this is interesting. Talking about the utilization of Indonesian membership, Alia, in large organization, and let's say Faiza, we were talking about utilization of some membership, but the presidency of Indonesia is coming up in G20. In your opinion, will this issue be brought up at the upcoming G20 summit?
Well, if we look at the G20, it initially was born out of the economic debacle that we faced in the late 1990s. Then the meeting is very much at the level of ministerial level. It was only in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, it was elevated into leadership platforms. But in essence, G20 remained to its core, discussing the issue of global economic issues, the issues that impacting the global economy of the world. But there are occasions when, I believe in 2013, during the chairmanship of our presidency of Russia, then we have the issue of Syria. At that time, the internal conflict in Syria that the prospect of affecting the regional stability. And it's overtake the discussion on the general economic issues as the leaders, focusing the discussion on the crisis in Syria. But if you look at the summit itself, we will hosting the summit in November. So we just don't know how this crisis evolving, but hopefully prior to the summit, there is some kind of resolution to the conflicts. And certainly it's an ideal world if the leaders at the summit can focus their discussion solely on the economic issues. We might anticipate the debacle in Ukraine will continue to be an issue that countries will bring to the table. As we see, the G20's process will take several meetings in the process, and that could be the case that the discussion at the minister level, at the working group level, will also be influenced by the great power disharmony in the relation between big power. Naturally, it will affect the process, but certainly we do hope that close to November, we can see a kind of resolution to this crisis.
Well, it is going to be quite a powerful position for Indonesia, at least to chair the presidency of G20, and at least to help the world to refocus or put the focus on the world's agenda. So talking about Ukraine, but this discussion can go on forever because you two are so great and telling us about the insights and everything. But we're very curious about the brotherhood here. So both of you received international relations degrees from Pajajaran University, and there's this war in Ukraine. Do you talk about these issues, together often, or do you even bring it back to the campus and talk to the students there about the analysis of the conflict? Because this involves the domino effect of why Russia suddenly, says this is the time that we do the military operation for Ukraine, no matter what, So we want to know more about this.
So,
well, I have the luxury of having students. This is something he doesn't have. When I was the head of the department or the dean, I have the luxury of organizing events. So I invited him, but I know my limit. I know my limit. I know what he's supposed to say, what he's not supposed to say. I know this. So that's why I do not push him to talk beyond his jurisdiction. But it is good for the students to have good messages from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. And because in our opinion, it is also good for Ministry of Foreign Affairs to outreach, to come to the campus, to not to make itself elitist. So I find that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have been doing good things. They have been working very hard to win ideas coming from the universities, and we are very happy to synergize our curriculum, our students, our teachers, and our programs with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because the Indonesian diplomacy is a total diplomacy. It's not only the responsible of the diplomat, it's also the responsible of all Indonesian citizens. That's what I have in mind.
All right. Pak Rezasyah, would you like to ask questions to your brother? Would you like to have a say?
Well, he will punish me later on because I full respect to my brother. But we did discuss a lot of foreign policy issues. It's nice for us as a practitioner to listen to the perspective from scholars and to exchange views with their students to gain out-of-the-box perspective. I think this is kind of good exercise that we see bring us better values. Sometimes it's good to reflect on some of the development and try to look back from the theoretical perspective. So we did have some conversations, but I respect his professionalism, and he can talk on issues from various angles while I'm very much tight on my official positions. I don't want to ask a question because he will
maybe not here off the record. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, for telling us the insights as well as your analysis. We do hope that we'll talk again soon. So take care, and hopefully, we'll see and hear more from you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, and happy anniversary to see today's episode.
Oh, thank you so much, Pa.
Thank you, Pa.
Thank you.
Thank you.